Welcome to Seat Time, everybody, the off-road show that brings you all the results, news, and online shenanigans that make being online a good time. We'd like to say thank you to Fly Racing for their support of Seat Time. Please go check them out at flyracing.com. Welcome to Seat Time, everybody. Brian Pierce here, your host for this fine evening on a Tuesday in Texas. What is it, June? No, it's June 21st because it's my wife's birthday. She is 34 today. What a fine specimen of a woman. And she's put up with myself, and we've had 2 kids together. Another one from craziness in the world. Oh, you guys are lucky I'm here, seriously. No, but thank you very much for putting up with us. Last week was horrible. We have really apologized for all that kind of bullshit. But sometimes technology just catches up to everybody, which is what happened. We had what was it? We had kernel issues.
Even with Apple.
Dad. Welcome to Seat Time, everybody. So my dad's over here watching the show, trying to eat up. He's just eating up bandwidth over here. What a guy, this man. So, of course, welcome to Seat Time. This is the online show for the off-road enthusiasts. We're the beer-drinking, binge-racing show that's going to bring you through all the news. We're going to try to talk about a little bit of Baja as well. We know last week we were trying to get Jesse Groemm on. We're going to have him on tonight. We also were trying to get Josh String on to talk with him about the fact that he did so well at the Full Gas Sprint Enduro and then at the GNCC. Didn't do so hot at the National Enduro this past weekend when he got 8th, but that's okay. Obviously still on a terror when it comes to the Full Gas and GNCC, which really is his specialty anyway. Not as much the tighter, a little bit more single track specific national enduros. So before we totally get into the show, Dad, what the heck have you been up to?
Well, cleaning out the garage.
Yeah, I heard you've updated or made sexier your 690.
Yeah, well, yet to be seen, but there are a whole bunch of changes that I've made.
So is this is it time for an updated review on the bike? Look at the fun parts that we've added, kind of a thing?
Let it get done first.
Oh, so we're not done yet.
Yeah, but we'll have a debutante coming out party for it.
Oh, that sounds dirty, and I'm into it. So
she'll come out all dressed up, ready to play.
At Seat Time Adventures?
Yes, indeed.
I like it. So some of you guys might be checking in a little bit on Facebook. So I've actually got my phone streaming live right now on Facebook Live. But just in case, if you guys wanted to jump on over to YouTube and check that out, this will not be going the whole time. This is just something I said, hey, you know what? Why don't I just throw it up here and see what happens? So you guys jump on over to YouTube here and help us create the awesomeness. Of course, you can jump in the chat room as well, tlk.io/seattime, if you'd like to chat with us. I see Matt's in there right now, which we really appreciate. Hello, Matt. Welcome to the chat room. So we're sponsored by Fly Racing, Kenda Tires, and SRT Off-Road. If you guys are looking for any kind of gear to keep yourself cool in this extremely warm and humid weather that we're having down here in Texas, you definitely want to go check out the kinetic mesh gear from Fly Racing. You want to go to your local dealer, ask them to try it on, get the fan, and you want to just get that and blow it on your crotch. And you're just going to be like, this is the gear that I need to wear, because your crotch is never going to have felt so good in so much awesome motorcycle gear. I promise. I mean, it's just a thing. I know this.
And the faster you go, the cooler you'll be.
I'm a crotch connoisseur. I understand how this thing works. I think Dad's line's better, but we're just going to go with both of them because they're awesome. So flyracing.com, go check out their stuff. Of course, Kenda Tire USA. You can learn more about those guys at kendatire.com. We're going to be running the Equilibriums again this year in Colorado at Seat Time Adventures. Then we're going to be doing the triple stickies.
Not we. Not we.
That's true.
I'll
we as Parkers. In it's the proverbial we. There will be multiple Parkers. People that will have them on their bikes, not the we as in us.
The Chase crew will have Parkers.
And he will have the Kenda Parkers on his. If we could get some Kenda UTV tires, I'm sure that Steven would be totally down to rep those on his side-by-side for the support crew. But and then, of course, for TKO, we're going to switch over to the triple stickies front and rear, that prototype sticky on the back that you see all the Kenda Endurocross riders run, because that's the hot business. It is so epic to use when it comes down to being in that kind of humid, slippery, nasty rock that happens in Tennessee.
TKO last year was so much fun to watch. I can only imagine what it was like to ride.
It's way more fun to watch than it is to ride, I'll be honest.
I was just about to say not.
Yeah.
I mean,
way more fun.
Last man standing.
Yeah. And then, of course, SRT Off-Road. So we're talking about TKO. We're talking about Colorado. All of these things, with all the rocks that's going on, the elevation, and the way that things just get weird, go watch some of my crashing videos from last year at Seat Time Adventures. And you'll see why your bike needs a little bit of extra protection. You can go to SRT Off-Road. You can go to your local dealer and make sure you're getting those skid plates. Make sure you're getting those pipe guards. You're getting yourself protection for your front and rear rotors and all the other fun bits of your bike, because that way you spend a little bit of extra money up front to protect the bike, but it's going to last that much longer. Then you're going to be buying as many parts and potentially fixing holes in cases and all the other kind of crap that can come along with that kind of BS.
Braking at the
Nobody
wrong
enjoys it.
time.
Yeah. I understand.
Out in the
that.
middle of nowhere.
It happens to the best of us. Yeah. So we're gonna have Jesse Groemm on here. I'm gonna shoot him that text even that says we're coming in hot, and let him know that it's coming. So Jesse Groemm recently was quote unquote. There was an email that said he was not on the beta team anymore, right? And so we're going to find out a little about that. And then, of course, once he did get the next GNCC that he was on kind of a little bit of a privateer KTM ride, got himself on the podium, got second place, did awesome. This past weekend at the National Enduro, he got third. He was on the podium. So I think it's going to be an interesting discussion because we know that Jesse Groemm is a great rider, right, which is awesome. But then we get to learn a little bit about some of the things that went on with Beta, and we get to learn about how he transitioned back over to the KTM and some of the things that he goes, okay, these are some of the changes I need to make. This is how I need to ride this bike versus the other bike. So I think it's going to be fun. So we have to say, before we even get going with it, Mr. Jesse Groemm, how is your evening going, kind sir?
Yeah, not too bad. Just wide open, all day, busy, just running around.
Are you still a Boilermaker?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Actually, I was on the phone a bunch today. I got to do a weld test tomorrow. Me and another guy got to go out to Philly and make or break. You pass the test, you go to the job, and if you fail the test, you don't get paid. You don't get to go.
Oh well, I mean that's good that it's that dedicated. It's one of those situations where you got to actually be able to do what you say you can do to make your money. So that's good to hear.
Right. Exactly.
Well, congrats on you having ridden your KTM as well as you have the past 2 weekends. We've always known that you've been a good rider. You've been on the podium before. It's not like this is unexpected. I think the chain of events that kind of brought us to where you're at on the KTM now and being on those podiums and things like that might be the part where we're kind of like, I don't know, like how good's he going to do in those circumstances, changing quickly. Back to a familiar bike, sure, but still a lot of different kinds of things going on. So you kind of take us where you want to go to start this off. Do you want to just dive in and talk about some of the beta stuff and how it was being on the team, and then kind of the weird press release that we all got when you weren't on the team anymore, or would you prefer to talk a little bit more about what has been going on more recent? And because we want to talk about both of them.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. Whatever. I'll just start. We just had 2 podiums 2 weekends in a row. You know what I mean? We had a third at the National, and then a second and a sixth overall. A second actually 2, sixth overall at the GNCC. So that was pretty good. But yeah, with the beta thing, basically it was pretty unexpected. I wasn't planning at all to go anywhere. I was hoping to stay with the team. But, long story short, my mechanic and I had some issues with some management stuff, and basically, in a nutshell, I presented the issues, and management wasn't really open for discussion, and one thing led to another, and that was it. And I was very thankful, and I made sure I put that in my communication, my whatnot. So it was unexpected, but I think I'm in a better place now.
Okay.
And
Yeah, here's an interesting question. Now, granted, I literally do not, I know this is going to sound weird, like I'm trying to hide around the truth. I do not know what those situations were that you're referring to. But what makes me...
Nor do we need to.
Yeah, no. And one of the things that I immediately jump to is what we've seen a lot in motocross and supercross, where guys have been forced to ride air forks because that's what the bikes are sold, right?
Or air shocks.
Right, yeah. And they're... So... A situation now, again, no, you don't need to talk about details, but is it a situation where it's kind of like you wanted to change something that maybe overall would have made the bike look different than the way that it's sold? You know what I mean?
Right. I understand what you're saying. Yeah. You're saying basically like there's guys who didn't want to run air forks or whatever, but it wasn't. I mean, there was things where maybe I would want to have changed on the bike. Betas are a good bike, but every rider has their things that they like to, tweak. But it wasn't totally the bike side of it. It was kind of the other side of it. And, one thing led to another. I wasn't, expecting to part ways, but, that's just kind of the way it went.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you were on the bike on the beta team for what, about 2 years? Would it have been a full 2 years?
Yeah, at the end of this season, it would have been a full 2 years. And last year, I had that gnarly concussion where I KO'd myself, so I didn't do too much till the end of the year. We got a third at an Enduro, and I think a third in XC2. So
right.
But yeah, so a year and a half I rode a beta for.
Well, I mean, granted, you're not on the team anymore, blah blah blah. But you talked about the bikes being good. I think it's still something to talk about because of the fact that people still kind of question the beta, right? We've seen a lot of. I don't want to say a revolving door, but I've already said it. So it's kind of a revolving door with a couple of riders that have kind of come in and quickly either seem to have left or have been asked to leave, however that kind of comes across. So again, like I doubt that has anything to do with the bike itself. So let's just talk about the bike. When you're on that beta two-stroke, I mean, like it's easy to relate to a KTM because of the fact that there's so many KTM two-strokes out there. How much does it relate to an equivalent two-stroke KTM?
Yeah, it's a little different for me. I felt like the beta kind of the steering was a little quick for me. Like it kind of felt like it was kind of knifey, kind of. So I had to drop the sag way down. I'd lower my forks, raising the front end, and I ran my rebound really slow, my rear shock, that sort of thing, and that seemed to work well. But they had a similar European kind of feel. I think I'm a little more comfortable on a KTM, but yeah, it's similar. They have a 6-speed transmission, like a KTM. I think I changed gearing a little. We were running a 38 millimeter carb on the beta, running a 36 on the KTM. So yeah, they're similar. I feel a little bit more at home on the KTM.
Right. Yeah, and I think with people that have had to go back and forth with different brands and things like that, you still kind of have that home feeling, right? Yeah. We've all kind of gone through that.
Yamaha, KTM, Suzuki.
Yeah.
For me.
All of those would be where your
and an ATK.
The ATK was a bad idea.
Yeah.
The ATK was a bad idea. There was a couple Sherco two-strokes that I rode a couple, maybe 2-3 years ago. And I felt a little bit of what you're referring to in that knifey situation. Now, granted, this was a demo ride. It was not like I had a chance to go out there and completely adjust the bike. I know that if that had been the case, that Clay would have been like, Clay Stuckey would have totally let me, work that bike until it was, until I felt more comfortable on it. But I thought that was interesting. That was one of the first bikes, and I haven't had a chance to ride a beta. The first time that I kind of got on a bike that felt like almost too nimble. It was kind of like a weird front end feeling. So that's interesting about the beta. I know that Mark Weeks has been riding a beta for a little bit. It'll be interesting to talk to him too.
Well,
who was that?
Oh, Mark Cook. Sorry, Mark Cook.
Because I noticed you said you dropped your forks in the frame, which is just the opposite of what I do. I raise the forks in the frame to kind of get most of the Japanese bikes to steer better. But was it a fork angle issue where they were too steep and therefore gave you that knife kind of cut at low speeds plus head shake at high speeds?
Right. Yeah, well, we also, actually, I forgot to mention, we also changed the triple clamps. I think on the beta, they're like a 20 millimeter offset, and we went to the 22s, and just to kind of get it to be a little bit more stable. And I run a steering dampener. I run a Scott's dampener on all my bikes. So yeah, I just kind of drop the forks down just to get it to be a little more stable and not steer so quick, and the steering dampener, and that's what worked for me.
Is that the same? I haven't never done this, and I know that you're riding a KTM, you probably have. Is that the same direction that most people go on the KTMs? They go to the 22.5 when it comes to the changing the triple clamps, opposed to the 20? Does it come stock with the 20, or is it vice versa?
I'm pretty sure I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure the KTMs come with 22s on them. I think in 2012 I put 20s on and to get it to steer a little quicker, but it was kind of unnecessary, I think. But I'm pretty sure it's 22s, and they seem to be good. I just kind of leave it, and the bike handles great.
Right. Okay, then it's probably where it comes 22 stock and it goes to like a 20 and a half is what most people probably do. Then, like you're saying, to get it to actually turn a little bit quicker, opposed to, in your case, you're saying it was almost too quick sometimes.
Yeah.
Right.
Of course, the worst of all worlds was my 400 Yamaha. We had this monstrously long motorcycle, like an 18-wheeler, and then they had a real sharp steering angle to try to get it to turn. It didn't work. It didn't work.
It was no fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I rode in 2013. I rode for Ampro Yamaha, and I rode the YZ250 two-stroke, and I thought the bike handled pretty good. And there's nothing like that KYB suspension. That stuff works.
Wait, I'm talking 1999, 2000 here. So
yeah,
there's a delta between my Yamaha and the one you rode.
Yeah,
they've learned a few lessons since then.
It's funny you mentioned that though, the 250, the YZ250. Now that they have the YZ250X, that's kind of like I mean, like, I honestly think, because Dad and I both. I mean, how many people did I talk to when I got that 350? I went back and forth so much because I really enjoyed riding that 250F when they came out with it, the FX, and I was like, I think that's going to be my bike. And then I wound up getting the 350 just because I wanted to get that little bit more power, but I really do think I kind of missed the two-stroke feel, but I'm still in the mood to kind of change it up. And now that Yamaha does have that 250X, I think that would be a stellar bike for somebody like myself, who I get to ride rarely, I get to race even less, and when I do, I want to have fun, right? Like, I just want to have a traditional setup that works for me and just kind of go for it. I'm not going to nitpick or anything like that. Like, that would be really cool.
I agree.
I think your 350 is the best bike for you, but that's
we'll figure
that's just the old man talking.
We'll figure it out. Once they have direct injected two-strokes, then we're talking.
Well, I know with that 250X, that's a step in the right direction for Yamaha for the off-road stuff, because I know, Randy Hawkins, when I rode for them, when I rode for him, I remember him saying he was pushing for that for a long time, to have a Woods, kind of like a KTM XC or XCW, but a Yamaha, and I guess they finally delivered, Right. So
if anybody knows how to win on a two-stroke, it's Hawkins.
Yeah.
I mean, he did it for years.
Randy Hawkins was the boost. Well, dude, okay, so let's talk a little bit about, because the press release stuff kind of comes out. We're like, holy shit, he's not on beta. This is crazy. And then, like, a little bit after that, your stuff comes out, and it's like, okay, well, then you have and I have spaced, unfortunately, on the shop that has helped you out, which the dude has the most stellar mustache. Lots of mustache envy for sure about that fine gentleman.
That's Evan.
I know he's an upstanding citizen with that kind of a mustache. There's no question that. But talk to us about what that was like. Okay, well, crap, I got to figure some stuff out so I can keep going racing. Like, what was that like? And then what got you to the partnerships that you have obviously worked with the past 2 weekends?
Right. Well, I've known, that's Evan Yarnell. He owns a KTM dealership in Downingtown, PA, and Jeff Pasqua, my mechanic, he lives right down the road from me, but he's been going to Evan for years, and I've used Evan for a couple different things, for help with some motor work and stuff, and Jeff is always in touch with him, and I've been in touch with him a little bit here and there, and Jeff made a phone call, and basically Evan was pumped. He really loves GNCCs, and he loves National Enduros. He used to be Mike Lafferty's mechanic. I don't know what year, but I know he used to work for Mike.
Awesome.
So he knows what he's doing, and he was psyched, and he's like, yeah, we'll get a bike together. He's like, I can make something happen quick, and basically in a week he had a fully prepped bike for me, and picked the thing up and went out to the GNCC and ripped it.
Dude,
basically.
how much time did you have on this machine?
The hour meter had like an hour and a half on it total, and that was like heat cycles, warming it up and taking it out. So basically I rode it for an hour,
So you basically had to go race with you adapting to the motorcycle rather than adapting the motorcycle to your riding style, which is pretty commendable.
Yeah. So it felt good. I mean, he put the closed cartridge forks on because the 4CS stuff, I guess, I haven't really rode them too much, but I don't think they work as well as the closed cartridge. And Evan, basically set everything up and had a good idea of what I used to run on my KTMs, and just kind of went out and raced it. And we're making some adjustments, and we can only improve.
Yeah.
When you get the bike modified for you, you're going to be a killer.
Yeah. It's going to be such a badass. It's going to be awesome, Mr. Groemm.
Forget making the podium. How about standing on top?
I know, right? Get to that top step of the podium.
Yeah, that's the goal. So I'm very thankful for him jumping on board and helping me out right away, and everybody's still behind me.
Yeah. Well, did you potentially lose any sponsors, or like who stuck with you and who really that's.
Yeah. So I still I got Fly Racing still with me, and Arai helmets, CD boots, Scott goggles. Those are my personal sponsors, and then some other sponsors. And Liat, and I was able to make a bunch of phone calls, and it was tough halfway through the season. Picking up sponsors, everybody's budgets and everything are done. So
yeah, they're already talking like 2017 budgets. Like they're like, wait a minute, no, we don't have money.
yeah, exactly. So Kenda Tires, they're still behind me, and they're just like FMF was able to squeeze out a couple pipes, and Dirt Trick sprockets, they're gonna hook it up, and I got Carb Sport nutrition stuff. So I still have a lot of good people behind me, which I'm psyched for, and it's tough. I mean, I'm calling overnight, and I had to overnight a tank, and everything else, and just to make everything happen, it was pretty tough. But
yeah, that's got to be tough. There's been a couple times I know that Dad and I have had to scramble, and again, like we're enthusiasts these days for sure, but it's really awesome when people go out of their way like that to make sure that what you're trying to accomplish gets accomplished. And
right.
I say it like that because it's not like it's not like they're being pressured by anybody to, because they could be like, dude, it is Friday afternoon. There's no way I'm getting a tank overnighted to you by tomorrow. Like, but
right.
You know what I mean?
Well,
like, obviously a bad example because that's probably not exactly what happened, but still, like,
yeah.
And so we've been in weird situations like that. So that's cool that the people that you have been working with have been so
right. Well, yeah. If it wasn't for for Evan and Jeff, they really helped make it happen. Otherwise, I would have just went out on a stock bike right off the showroom floor, and they put a lot of hard work in and helped make it happen for me.
Right on. Okay, so 250 XC, was that what you were on?
Yep.
Okay, now granted, it sounds like he did a lot of changes, or he did a lot of setup, right? That he chose to do for you, and now you've been on it again at the National Enduro, got third place. What kind of, has there already been some evolution to what Evan did and now where the bike is sitting? Talk us through some of that, because I think a lot of people ask questions because maybe they don't get why people make a lot of the changes that they do make to a motorcycle.
Like your comments earlier were incredible. To get the bike to slow down steering, you change your dampening on the rear. Most people wouldn't think of that.
And that's a James Stewart thing. Like, if anybody's going to make that connection, go watch the way James Stewart rides, and his ass is always and it's because the way that he steers with his rear end, he doesn't want the front end to be super nimble. He wants it to be super chopper.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is what you were trying to create. You were trying to create more chopper.
Right. Yeah. So basically, we rode that GNCC, and the forks felt spot on, perfect. The shock was a little stiff, so second time around, Evan softened up another shock for me. We got that on, and practiced on that actually today, so that we made a little adjustment there. But really, we didn't change too much since that GNCC. We put a 51 tooth rear sprocket on, V-Force reeds. We took the Boyson out. TM Design chain guide, Enduro Engineering shark fin, slave cylinder guard, just all the necessities for smashing into rocks and trees, and you know how that is. So,
yes. I mean, I personally have been using the SRT off-road shark fin, but
right.
you use what you use, right?
Yeah, hey, they're good. They're a good company too. Yeah,
and those are the handlebars going on my 690.
Oh yeah,
I can tell you in advance.
We're big Flex Bar fans. That's the thing. They're not even a sponsor anymore, but I'm such a big fan that I'm like, nope, everybody should have a pair.
Yeah, they make good stuff.
Okay. What about engine-wise? Like we did, we talked. Okay, you just talked about the fact that it's like softened up the suspension a little bit. It was a tad bit too stiff in the rear. I've always thought it's interesting how people can, and I'm not one of those guys. I'm not one of those dudes that The only thing that I ever did on my 350, I never did it on any of the two-strokes, was I was like, okay, when I try to start turning the throttle stock, it's way too slow. There's just way too much damn play in that throttle, so we had to tighten up the throttle cable so that way I could get less play, and it was a little bit more responsive, like right off the initial twist, if you will. That's about it, right? That's like the small parts for me. So what about you? Like, where do you get nitpicky when it comes to the engine, or do you? Is that what you love about the bikes?
Right. I'm not too bad. There's some guys that are worse. Like I know, with the beta thing, felt like I needed a little more power, so we went with the 38 millimeter carb. And I know Tegan, he was always looking for some more power, and then I guess he liked the harder hit or whatever. I'm like a mellow guy. Like on the KTM, Jeff was actually just riding my bike before the National, and he's like, "Oh, this thing feels like it was like laggy." But I like to have my power like really like a freaking turd. Like I don't like my bike hitting hard. Some guys put a light flywheel in and all this other stuff. But we took the electric start off in the battery. Saves about 5 pounds. I turned the power valve in the yellow spring so it doesn't hit too hard. The V-Force reads. I guess it gives it a little bit more responsiveness or whatnot, and that's pretty much it. I don't really change much. I'm not a big kind of tweaker when it comes to the motor. I'm usually just kind of close to stock, and that's it.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what I don't remember what spring I ran in the 300s. I want to say, is the yellow the most mellow, or?
The yellow is the stock power valve spring, so that's right in the middle. The green,
that's like a mud race, right? Like.
The green makes it a real mellow hit, and the red it hits like a light switch. Hits like a stock YZ250.
Right. And then yeah. And see, what I think I did is I put the red spring in, but I I brought it in, right, so that it had more tension. I don't know. I'm not remembering.
Yeah.
So it was like one of those things. It's like if you had the yellow spring and brought it out all the way, or put the red spring in and brought it in a lot, like it was kind of like right in that like general area. Because I didn't like it as hard as you're talking about as well. I think I should probably try what you tried, is go back to the stock.
Right.
If I ever wind up with another power valve 300 kg.
Run more like a 4-stroke.
Right. Yeah, a little bit more torque in that
and less wheel spin in
area.
Mud and dry leaves and pine needles and stuff. With the high revving, you just get wheel spin when you don't want it.
You said wheel spin?
Yeah, off roots and wet. And pine needles.
That's my thing. I'd rather put the power to the ground. When you have the thing hitting hard, like you said, you're breaking loose, you're breaking traction, and you're not driving forward. And so I like to have smooth, controllable power. Sometimes it feels like you're going fast and the bike's making a lot of noise because you got the short muffler on and it's hitting hard, but that's not always the ticket.
Yeah, but you look cool, damn it.
Even if you have the power valve
that's important too.
But even if you have the power valve set for torque, once you get the revs up, it's going to open.
Yeah.
So you can still have that 2-stroke top end, even though you've got a more mellow bottom end.
And that's what I think of, like the 300. Like when I started riding the 300s over the 250s, I realized that was what you gained. Like even though you got those extra 50 cc's, like riding the 300, like, and again, it's just extra cc's. They don't do anything different. Like it's just a different, it's not even a different head.
We still had bigger
or it's just a different head. Sorry, it's like in a piston. Like it's like what the hell. But for some reason, that extra, the way that they make that engine, like you get so much more torque, opposed to just like. All bottom end or all top end. Sorry.
But once you get up around 6,000 RPM, I don't care what spring you've got in there. That valve's going to be open.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're still going to get a 2-stroke top end.
Before we let you go, talk to us a little bit about the National Enduro, because that's one of the things where this is a little bit of a newer, I think, on the schedule. I haven't seen this one throughout the years as much as I have obviously a lot of the other ones. So take us through how the event went for you. You got third on the box, which is fantastic. And talk us through some of the tests and how it went.
Yeah, first test went good. I ended up winning the first section, and then the second section, I guess I pretty much sucked in, and I I was like 20 or 20 something seconds off the pace, I think. And I don't even know what I was doing in there. I didn't crash or nothing. I was just arm pumped up, I guess. And then I just basically stayed consistent the whole day. Had some third, fourth times. Going into the last test, I was 5 seconds ahead of Grant Baylor for third, and I actually crashed in the last section. And I was, running through my head like, oh, I ruined it. I'm going to be off the podium. And I just kept my head down, pushing, and ended up, finishing. I think I beat him by 6 seconds out of the section for 11 seconds ahead of Grant for third. And it was pretty brutal. It was hot. A couple of guys said, that it was one of the toughest enduros in a while. And there was a lot of guys laying on the ground when they got back. I know, I think like Russell and Nick Farringer went and cooled down in the creek. I saw Grant and Stu laying down, and I was trying to push my bike into the back of the van. I started getting cramps. It was, from just dehydration, sweating all day. It was a tough race.
That's awesome. Well, you don't hear that often anymore when it comes to the national enduros. I'll be honest.
Yeah, right.
So that's good to hear that. I think that they've, they're
Put the endurance back in enduro.
Yeah.
Right. It was that was a pretty tough enduro, and I guess the land was logged there at one point. So it was really stumpy. I mean, there was a bunch of stumps kind of everywhere. You had to really stay on on the main line, because you were taking a risk with nailing a stump if you got out of the main line.
We all knows what that can do to big toe.
How many? Yeah. How many cans of fluorescent
Blow your
paint?
freaking knee out.
Yeah, dude. Dad blew his big toe up in
Knocked it off.
A stump, between the foot peg and the stump, and just blew up in the boot.
Yeah, that sucks. Then you feel the pain, and then you're nervous to take your boot off. You're like, what's this gonna look like?
Squish.
Yeah.
Squish.
You're like, that's full of blood. That's not fun.
Wrapped it up in paper towels and duct tape and went to the hospital.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's not fun. You end up cutting the boot off with a saw or something.
No, I took it off, but I wound up then wrapping it and then putting and I had standard transmission. So I put my foot up on the dashboard, my right foot, and had to do both the gas, the clutch, and the brake with my left foot. That was no fun.
That's like real manly shit right there, Dad.
Well,
Yeah.
if you drove a Dodge van back in the 70s, you didn't have an automatic transmission.
He didn't have a cell phone to call anybody either,
Well, I had a couple of guys to help me.
He had a couple quarters he could have put in a payphone somewhere.
Quarters in a payphone.
He had to walk uphill both ways to get back around.
He had to hobble, because this foot's obviously.
Yeah.
And the worst part was when he was putting that
Dirt or
darn
snow barefoot.
scrub brush on the bottom of my foot because I'm so ticklish.
He didn't numb everything. That SOB, what a shitty doctor. We're like, dude, bro, I need some morphine. Let's bring it in. Well, Mr. Jesse Groemm, before we let you go, what didn't we ask? What do you want to tell us or the world of off-road enthusiasts?
That's a good question. Basically, what do I want to tell everybody? Basically, things happen that are unexpected sometimes, just, in life and racing, and it's important to keep your cool, keep plugging away, never give up.
Never give up.
And, everybody has their advantages and disadvantages in life, and you just got to take your situation and make the best of it. That's all I can say, really. And thanks to everybody who's still behind me. I'm going to keep pushing forward, and I'm never going to give up.
Dig it, dude. Well, we really appreciate you coming on the show and taking the time to work with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And that's
Absolutely.
a great attitude.
Yeah, I agree. And I like it's tough sometimes to have discussions about changes to the motorcycle and getting feedback that others could take advantage of, right? Like, they speak in first person, but that first person is in here, right? It's not the first person that actually is actionable items. And I like the way that you were able to give us essentially actionable items. Like, someone could say, holy crap, my bike's doing that.
Yeah.
Like, I could actually take some of the advice that I got from Jesse, which he didn't realize he was giving as advice, to then make adaptations to the motorcycle. So that's what we like. More of that, please.
All right, no problem.
Plus,
All right.
a few more wins wouldn't hurt either.
Yeah, get a couple wins in there. And then when you
I'm
win, it's
working
like,
on it.
bro, seat time. Seat time.
Remember what we did for Ricky Brayback? When
Are
he
you
came
invite me
on,
back on once the next when we get a win.
Dude, bro, we put everybody on the box. That's all I'm saying. You
right.
you come on the box. You come on seat time. It's like game on for the career.
Yeah, we were out there.
Oh,
We
yeah.
were out there saying that sponsors, where are you? You need this guy.
Yeah,
And
for
6 months later, he had a factory ride. You know, sponsors, where are you? You need this guy.
well, the good thing
Wow.
is 2 of our sponsors are already on top of this dude.
Yeah.
So, not
Cool.
not in a weird way. You know, they're
Yeah, well, Fly Racing and who else?
and Kenda.
Kenda.
Cool. Yeah, awesome.
We wear the good rubbers.
Hell yeah.
All right, man. You take
Where
it
did
easy
I
and
go
have fun
wrong?
out there. Thanks for the good times.
All right, cool. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
Great job.
Later.
Bye. All right, Dad. Talk a little bit about some seat time adventure stuff. I know you got your butt pack here, and you had some papers and stuff. I'm going to text Matt and let him know that he's coming up on the show, but I will still be here, and we will talk about that, and then we'll get Matt
Okay.
called in.
Let me get all my props.
And if people are wondering, like, why did he close his computer? It died. If anybody, my morning started at 5 o'clock this morning.
My apple's bigger
and
than
it
yours
is
is.
not
My apple's
stopped.
bigger than
It
yours.
has been
Plus
a
it has more
very,
battery.
very long day, so I appreciate for people for just getting off my case.
Well, we're going to be putting some, some people have asked what they need to kind of bring. And, this is my dual sport butt pack. There'll be some pictures of it with a lot of the gear on the Seat Time website in the next day or two. Plus, I'm retyping something I put together for all of my rookies that would go, including this one, who were going to the Colorado 500. Which spent a lot of time in Taylor Park. That was my exposure to Taylor Park, and one of the reasons I love it so much is after 9 Colorado 500s, I missed that 10th one, darn it. I had a lot of seat time in Taylor Park.
Hi-oh.
So I'm in the process of retyping. Don't try to read this because you'll never read it. And look at the pictures because we'll just have some ideas. Little things that people forget. Tow ropes. This is not a monster tow rope. It's about 15 feet of parachute cord, but I've been towed with this. I've towed with it. I've towed others.
And that's a good way to do it, probably a little bit lighter, than some of the more traditional tow ropes that are out there.
You
right?
don't need all the stuff on the back because you can just tie this in knots or wrap it around handlebars and hold it if you're being towed so you can let go rather than crash and burn.
Right.
But I actually have been towed back up a hill with my KTM 300 with this. So it works. It works. And other things you don't think about. I rode with Malcolm Smith for a couple of years.
Yeah, we did.
Kerry McEnroth. And I thank both of those guys for all they did for me and the advice they gave me as a newbie to the 500. But the one thing that Malcolm said was, you ought to have your absolute best tools in your butt pack. And I'm scratching my head because I got the crappiest tools that I can find in my toolbox in my butt pack. And he said, the last place you want to deal with a bad tool is out on the trail. So you put your best wrenches, your best screwdrivers, your best of everything in your butt pack. And if you have to buy double, you buy double. So all of my wrenches are basically those high-end ratchet wrenches that I keep in my butt pack. And I've later learned that it doesn't hurt to have, there's some real small T-handle, hex drive type socket sets that have, if you're a Japanese rider, you're going to want a 10, 12, 14. If you're a European rider, you're going to want a 10, 13. Make sure you've got the little T-handle, and you can see it in the picture that we'll post, the little T-handle to have the sockets that you need. You'll also see something in there that looks like gold tinfoil rolled up. And what that is, especially when one of us was riding in Baja and he broke down out in the desert, it's just something to put over the motorcycle and kind of put over you to get you out of the sun. So that's not a bad idea either. Plus, if you're ever stranded overnight, you got kind of a little blanket. So as you look at the tool bag, the only thing that's not shown in those pictures is going to be my tire tools. Although Brian's just about got me convinced that tubeless is the way to go, because then all you have to bring with you is a regular tubeless tire patch kit. If you run over nails.
Or just don't be an idiot and actually put your slime in the damn tires.
Yeah. Whatever. Oh, we've got
So-
somebody important coming on.
It's interesting. We were talking about the safety kit or all the stuff that's going on, but what's going to be fun is we're definitely Sea Time Adventures is in about 3 weeks. We're having our call with all the riders coming up Thursday night. So anybody that is already paid and going to Sea Time Adventures, be ready for that call. We're sending all that information. We're going to have updated information like this for all the riders. So they kind of know not just what to prep the bike for, but what to prep themselves for. We do have a couple sponsors that are going to be helping us out with different types of snacks. So we're going to be able to get a bulk purchase of Epic Bar and Epic Snacks. And
Outstanding.
of course, I'm going to work on getting a bulk purchase of some beer. So that way we have that going for everybody. Right? Indeed. Pink. So it's going to be a good time. So that's one of the things to look forward to, and what's so much fun about being associated with Sea Time Adventures is that it's not just a ride. It's much more large scale integration into just being a badass and riding your dirt bike. So it's gonna
Even
be a
for
good
the
time.
chase crew, it was a fabulous experience.
Yeah.
I just wish I could have gone with you guys.
What's cool is I think Brady Davis, who's going to be coming, is his dad's now going to be coming and going to probably ride with you guys.
Oh,
So that's going to be a good time.
well, I'm on the 690 this year.
Oh, yeah, we know. All right, let's talk about some Tough Like RORR. Mr. Matt Reber, what is going on, dude?
Not too much, my man. It's good to see you guys again after a long
Absolutely.
year.
I know it has. It's been a stinking year already. So is that a fun shirt that you're wearing? Is that some RORR shirt?
Oh yeah, this thing. This year the club decided to make shirts for everybody who participates in our enduro and hare scramble and Tough Like RORR. So people on the trail know who they can talk to if they need help. Spectators, riders, we're all there to help out.
Oh, that's
So
a great idea because there's those times where there's so many dirt bike T-shirts, in the mix that sometimes they kind of all mix together. But if you've got very bright, very specific shirts, and you tell everybody these are staff people, they have answers to any question or they can get it. That's a good way to kind of approach that without having to wear a damn safety vest.
Yeah, those workman
Very true.
vests. Yeah.
All right, so break it down. What are the dates for the event so that way everybody knows exactly the date of the event?
So it's going to be July 4th weekend, which this year is July 2nd and 3rd. It's going to be a blast. We're really stepping it up this year. We got Kenda as our title sponsor. So they're really big in what's going on. They're actually releasing their Kenda Ibex tire, which is going to be demoed by Michael Allen from Dirt Rider, I believe. And he's going to be riding a Beta 300 RR to test out our race. So we're really looking forward to this.
Wicked. Okay, well, do you know a little bit about the Kenda Ibex tire? That'd be great to learn a little bit about why they're debating this tire at the Tough Like RORR.
From what I understand, you've got to ask Mike at Kenda, but I believe it's basically the Trials compound, but in a knobby, basically.
Awesome. So
it's-
this might be what we were used to getting, and I know that sounds stupid and I'm sorry for it, but what you used to be able to buy when they called it the prototype tire. Because they had this prototype tire that we were able to get and purchase from Kenda for the TKO that we would always run in the rear. So maybe now it's not prototype, anymore. It might be a purchasable thing.
Yeah, most likely. That's what I think probably is happening. Prototype.
Fingers crossed. Let's see how they can get that going. So we've talked a little bit in the past about Tough Like RORR and how we were seeing a lot more extreme enduros pop up around the country and the world, to be completely honest. The one thing that we haven't really seen is an overall event championship. And I don't know that we need that, in the sense that it's you do this when you do, but something that kind of starts to create some unity between all of these events. That people can try to follow these and be like, oh, well, I got to compete in 5 of the 6, or I competed in 3 of the 6, and that, so that your level of badassery goes up as you try to travel around the country and compete in all these events. Now that you guys have done this for a little while, has there been any weird outside the inner circle discussion of some type of American extreme enduro? Again, I use the word loosely, but championship.
Well, speculation. We have been reaching out to the AMA, as far as I know. about possibly doing a 3-race series. I'm not sure which races. The idea may be the Ozark 100 miler and maybe the TKO and ours being a 3-race championship series. That's what we would like to see anyway. We were hoping to actually push towards that for this year because we believe that it would help all 3 events. TKO by itself is a very big event and well run, and we're trying to prototype ours a little bit like theirs, but with our own flair.
Right.
So we feel like if we could have a 3-race series, you would see these top end riders, excuse me, and maybe a Cody Webb or Colton Haker, Nick Farringer, Gerston, Redmond, those type of riders coming around just to do these events, just like Endurocross.
Right.
So we could all grow together, even maybe have somebody from the UK come over, Johnny Walker, Graham Jarvis, Wade, his name's slipping me right now.
Oh, Wade Young.
Yes, Wade Young. Those type of riders. We would really like to see growth in the States, throughout the world as well. But we feel like if we get a championship series, we'll see even more riders come in, and it just grow the sport even more in the extreme realm anyway.
Has there been any discussion with Eric Pernard about this? Has he been in any of these discussions?
Not as far as I know as of right now. The one member of the AMA, Joe Bromley, I'm not sure what he does in the AMA. People in my club know him personally, and they
do any of us really know what they do? I mean, they have an agenda.
Yes, they do. But that's who we're pushing on. We're trying to see. Hopefully next year we can have a series. That's hopefully.
What would be interesting is to see, like, now that we're, like, 2016, we saw the Endurocross for so many years stretch, from January to December sometimes, it felt like. But people were traveling for here, not racing for 2 months, all this kinds of stuff. And now it's much more concise and consolidated to the back half of the year. Yeah. It's like August, October, August, November kind of a deal. Like, bam. Well, now that leaves a lot of space open in the front half of the year for a lot of these riders to maybe compete in a series like this.
More extreme series.
Right, yeah, like a little bit more of an extreme series where they're doing these extreme enduros, right, in the beginning, in the front half of the season, or year, sorry.
They have flavor like an Endurocross,
right.
like TKO does.
Right.
Like the first 400 yards is Endurocross.
And then we kind of like say, okay, well, then the back half of the year, and that's why I ask if Eric Pernard is involved in any of these discussions, because one, that guy's got the clout. That guy has put together so many events throughout the past 20 to 30 years around the world that he has made a crap ton of money off of. But at the same time, they're fantastic events. So he's a good businessman and a good organizer. And at the same time, you're going to be able to ask him and be like, so what are your plans for 2017 with Endurocross? Are you going to be in the back half of the year? Or are you going to be in the front half of the year? I could easily plan to make sure that you're completely opposite of whatever Endurocross is doing, because those are the guys you want there if you want to grow, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
So it's interesting. I'm glad we're having this discussion. So you said that you guys have your own flair and your own flavor of putting. To talk about that some more, because I like that we're seeing that, and that's what you see on kind of the hard enduro circuit, if you will, around the world, is everybody kind of has their drop of the green flag and then their wave of the checkered, right? You got your start and your finish, but everything in between, they tweak it and they change it just a little bit. So talk to us again how you guys are kind of doing that to make your event that much more special. And it's going to speak to people a little bit differently than some of the other extreme enduros that we do see out in the States.
Well, our events, the whole idea was, when we first did this last year, was we want to make something difficult. Our races are generally known as the hardest or the harder ones in the East Coast Enduro Association. We actually just had our hair scramble this past weekend, which the weather was brutal and the terrain is brutal, so it was pretty intense. I actually even raced it. Anyway, so our whole goal is, let's take it up a step further beyond what our normal races are. We don't want to make anything that's impassable. We want everybody to be able to cross the finish line. That's our goal. But we want to make it so that you'll remember this. And last year, I believe a lot of riders did remember this. As far as scheduling goes, we have 4 total races on Saturday, 2 courses. So we split probably the double A's and the A riders go together on the first course. Then it's the B and the 45 plus riders. And then we switched to the second course, the double A's and the A's again, and then the B's and the 45 pluses. We put those times together. Then half of the top 50% of each class moves on to Sunday, where we throw all those people into one class, and we have them leave the starting line. I believe it's 5 at a time, like an enduro start on adjusted time. And basically, it's the top 50 out of that race move on to the main event, which is whoever's qualified, like top. We changed it this year, the qualification, because we had issues last year. So we're saying that your qualifying matters to the point of the top 10 guys get on the first row, then 11 through 20 on the second, so on and so forth. And there's going to be, I believe, a somewhere 15 to 30 second interval between those rows leaving. So the better you qualify, the better chance you have of winning. Because the last race, there is no adjusted time. It's just when the flag drops, it's all go.
Right. Awesome. And last year was Tegan Temple that won?
Could you repeat that? It kind of broke up.
Well, who was it that won last year? Was it Tegan Temple?
Last year, Tegan Temple won.
Okay, yeah,
he was still on the KTM. It was funny you had Jesse on. I was thinking last year, he was leading the main event as far as I remember, and he busted off a foot peg. Oh. Yeah, I posted some video, like some small little shots from when we were just previewing some stuff. This thing called the Stairway to Heaven, and it's ugly and rocky, and it's a slight incline the whole way, and it's just boulders. And I believe that's where it happened. I'm pretty sure last year, and he lost the lead, I think, because of that. So, yeah.
And now he's back on the KTM. Hopefully, no more foot pegs are lost in the process of kicking butt this year. Well, so who's coming? I mean, you've talked to us a lot about a lot of the riders that you've been trying to gain exposure to. Have you had a chance to kind of reach out to people and get them there and psyched up on the event?
Yes, as far as I know, as of right now, Nick Farringer's coming, Max Gerston's, Kyle Redmond, Jordan Ashburn. I was hoping to get confirmation from Jesse tonight, but it didn't happen. I think he's going to go. Ryder Lafferty, Grant Baylor possibly. I'm not 100% on that. And I just talked to Craig DeLong this weekend at our hair scramble because he's actually a RORR Club member, him and his brother. Craig wouldn't give me a 100% guarantee, but I think he's leaning our way. He was there last year. I know we beat him up pretty good. So.
As you should.
Oh, yes.
He's a younger brother. That's fine.
Yeah.
Word of mouth.
Yeah. Well, we just sent a text message to Mr. Jesse Groemm, so if he hasn't already gone to sleep, hopefully we'll find out if he's going to be coming to the event. Yeah, this is it's one of those things where it's awesome that these are happening, and being in Texas, it just sucks that they're happening because we're so far away from everything.
Well, Red River had the opportunity to do things like that, but
yeah,
land ownership and things like that.
Yeah, different ownership, and then what's kind of tough is how far away from you guys from Metropolis, say a city or a potential airport and any of that kind of stuff.
Not even that. I don't even think we're an hour away from Allentown Airport. About maybe 2 hours from Philly. So it's really not that far.
Yeah, see that's the good stuff. It's like what we
in
are
the Poconos?
Is like
yeah, about maybe an hour from Poconos.
We were from DFW. We were like a good 2 hours. But that was like the only airport that you could really go to. Right. And then it was, it was a lot of back roads. And the biggest problem about why the Last Man Standing didn't last is because of the fact that Red Bull didn't get the turnouts that they wanted because of the fact that what that means is that they were putting in all this money and just enough people weren't seeing the event, either being there live or then watching it after the fact. And that's a big reason why something like Last Man Standing just didn't keep up. No, I'm sure that there were other things, but I know that was a big part of it.
Well, has Red Bull been kicking your tires at all? Because they're real active in those extreme off-road motorcycle things around the world.
We have not heard from Red Bull. I would really like to hear from Red Bull, hopefully next year. They seem to know what's up and be able to really promote the sport really well, especially on the extreme end. You look at Romaniacs and you look at Erzberg, and it's just the viewership you have. You can see it right then and there live. It's amazing that you have that opportunity, and I think that's really, really helped the extreme sport, the extreme side of the sport, grow because people can actually see it happening live.
Yeah.
It's a huge plus.
Yeah. And I know that what's crazy is you watch the prologues of these events, right? And that's where you see a lot of the fan interaction is in the prologues, because you watch Romaniacs, you watch Erzberg, and even in whatever that crazy one that just went on in not Spain, but a South American country. They do a big, huge prologue. It's either in the city, right through the city, or right outside of a place where everybody's already congregated. And I feel like that might be the one thing that we're kind of missing to some degree, but TKO, I think, does that really well because they have that kind of central enduro crossy area, and they get that going. So even though the longer parts of the event, everybody's out for a bit, and you're kind of like running around to this spot and running to this spot, which can suck, and you can miss people, and it's a long day, but it works. But at least you get that kind of prologue feel where you can kind of almost watch everything happen from one central location.
And you can see when people advance and retard compared to their competition.
The one thing that's great about Red Bull being there is the fact that they can buy big, huge TV projectors, right, and put it up. So even when you're in the city and you're cramped into some corner, you got to just watch some guys race by. Then you can turn to the TV, and they've got cameras in every corner, right, and you can watch the race that way, which is where we haven't gotten yet. And I don't mean that against you guys. I just mean that even like the TKO has not gotten there yet. We don't have Red Bull money yet in the American Extreme Enduro circuit. I don't know if we're going to get that. It would be cool. I mean, like, granted, the thing is with what Steven and I can do, Seat Time could be a small version of that. We just don't have the finances to show up at an event, to buy what it takes to have the signal feed to be able to broadcast this stuff live, essentially to the internet from the middle of nowhere. So it's such a weird dynamic of how we can try to grow these things, but at the same time, the leap of faith for somebody to give a bunch of money to get it figured out is crazy.
But in the meantime, you can communicate with riders. You can via email or whatever do videos of what's involved and invite various riders, to what the event is, what it's about, what it can do for them as riders. To grow your rider base with the names you mentioned earlier. And I'm sure you're probably doing that already.
We try to reach out as many as we can. We really relied on Mike from Kenda to help out a lot with that. And I can honestly
that's your first mistake. That guy.
He's a good guy.
I love that guy.
He's a good guy.
He's cool.
I like Mike. I got to say, you guys helped us last year. I remember being out on Saturday at a spot. A guy got stuck, and I had my helmet off. He takes his helmet off and looks at me and goes, "You were on Seat Time. You being on that show is why I came." And I'm like, look at that. Look at that.
It works if you work it.
It works.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That's awesome to hear that. I'm glad to know that there are the 5 people that watch. One of them came to your event.
Jim Cook watches.
I saw that. That was hilarious. And then Jim Hollop does too, because he found out about Seat Time Adventures and emailed us. Yeah. He's like, "Who do I get in touch with?" I was like, "Me." And he goes, "Holy shit, is this Brian?" I was like, "Yep." He goes, "It's all downhill from here." But so yeah, I think that it's cool. I'm glad to see that it continues to grow, and I'm glad to see that Kenda is putting in an effort. It's just it's crazy because just like with where we're at now with motocross and supercross, where one of those series is essentially where it's at because of an energy drink, and the other is where it's at because of another energy drink.
Or an oil company.
Right. It's tough to think that we have to have that. You know what I mean? Because, if I had $100,000, I could figure out a way to make it happen. The problem is $100,000 is still nothing when it comes to producing one of the TV shows that comes along with, putting on an event like what you have, or putting on an event like with what TKO has. Because these guys are riding all over the place, and it's just nuts. But it's doable. I just think that too many people rely on these TV-sized budgets to create content live that they don't think outside the box and try to think cheap, which is what we've become increasingly good at.
Where can I get a better show? And you might be a better show.
I think we could probably get a better host for sure.
Nah.
Okay, so July 4th weekend, everything's going to kick off. It's a 2-day event, or is it an amateurs one day and then pros the second day?
No, the way we like it is we like everybody to have to race both days.
Okay, awesome.
The pros automatically get the pass to Sunday because, in all honesty, that's who people really, really want to see. But at the same time, we don't want the amateur guys, like our local AA guys, to feel like they don't have a fair shot because they spend all their energy the day before. Last year, it poured on Saturday. Absolutely freaking poured. And it made it insane. So basically, it was even. Everybody. I remember Mike Brown was having hydration issues at the end of the day on Sunday. Craig DeLong stopped at the bottom of the hill. I looked at him. I said, Craig, is it tough enough for you? He goes, oh, yeah, it's tough. I heard a story Wally Palmer was up at the top of the stairway to heaven with his head on his bars. I mean, it's what we wanted, and it turned out great. We could have done without the rain last year, but it was tough like RORR. It was exactly the way we envisioned it. It was perfect.
It always rains in Romania for those things.
Yeah. Yep. So how's it looking now? Is it super wet? Is it super dry?
No, like I said, we just had our hair scramble the past weekend. It's the same land. We just have different trails we use.
Gnarlier stuff.
Yeah, pretty much. It was weird. Saturday when the kids were racing, there were puddles my son was actually playing in. Sunday morning when I came back up and I'm sitting in the trail, like, 'cause it was 20 degrees cooler in the woods. I'm just sitting there. I'm like, that was filled with almost a foot of water yesterday, and it is dry. So, and it was great for the race. It was a little dusty in the opening areas, but besides that, it was pretty good. So I think we're actually getting rain here right now. It sounds like it anyway. So it's hopefully going to shape up to be a good weekend come July 4th.
Awesome. Well, cool, man. Okay, website. Where can people get more information?
All right, so we have our Facebook page, Tough Like RORR. Follow us on Instagram, Tough Like RORR. You have, for any information, RORR.org. You can reach out to me at matt@roar.org. Or, those are pretty much all the sites. It's, like I said, it's July 2nd and 3rd outside of Tomahawk, Pennsylvania. Registration is still open. It's a limit of 200 riders. It is $10 gate fee each day, 15 for 2 days. Children under 12 are $5. We will have South Mountain, Sherco, and Beta demo rides, Task Racing Night demo ride with their lights. We got, like I said, Dirt Rider Magazine, Michael coming to demo the Beta with the Kenda Ibex. Shan Moore will be there taking photos. We have Trevor Bull from Brat Magazine and Pleasant View Productions doing video this year, so we will have video content, thank God. And there will be, just for you, and there'll be $2,000 in fly racing bucks available. We're stepping up the payout this year. First place gets $4,000. So,
ooh, buddy.
Yeah.
I want that kind of money. That'd be
Yeah,
nice.
so do I.
Right? Everybody say goodbye to Papa Pierce. He's got to go tinkle. Bye, Papa Pierce.
See you, Papa.
Bye, Papa Pierce. He's got this.
Yep.
I just grabbed my dad's butt. It got weird. It got weird.
It always gets
You
weird.
do what you got to do when your dad needs a little bit of help. Well, cool, Matt. We really appreciate you coming on the show, taking the time to talk with us. I'm sorry again about last week and kind of shitting the bed on us. It would have been great for us to have gotten this content out a little bit earlier, but we still got it. We're still going to have fun. I know you guys are going to kick ass. I'm glad to know that you guys have somebody out there doing video for you this year. I think that's one of those things where what you need to do, too, when you're talking with them is make sure that they're shooting the right kind of content that you can also use the following year as pre-race marketing material, making sure you're asking people why they came and getting that kind of information so you could totally kind of use it to talk about 2017 for that whole kind of like pre-video kind of stuff.
Definitely.
Yeah, we'll make it happen, dude. We really appreciate you taking the time, man. You have fun out there.
We will. Thank you very much for having me again, Brian. It's always a pleasure.
Damn Skippy. Go enjoy that beer.
I already had one. I'm going to probably have another. So
You deserve it, for sure. I think, why not? I'm not going to tell you no. I need another one. Maybe when Dad comes back from the bathroom, I'll get him to get me one.
Sounds good.
All right, boss. Take it easy.
You too. Thanks, Brian.
Peace.
Later.
One of the things that I wanted to talk about with my dad, but he had to run to the bathroom, and I know that all that kinds of stuff happens, is some of the stuff that happened at the Baja 500. I've kind of hinted at it a little bit, and I say that because it's tough to talk about. You don't really. I've been to Baja twice, and it's one of those situations where I wasn't following a lot of the desert racing that went on until maybe 5-6 years ago, to be completely honest. So I feel like I'm still very new to racing in Baja. I'm completely new to racing in Baja, but I'm not new to riding in Baja, though I'm still very new to it. And I just think it's interesting, and I wanted to try to get a little bit more thought process behind what did happen, according to blog posts, official statements, and things of that nature, of what did go on at the Baja 500. So there were 3 deaths that did happen. More than that were critically injured and had to go to the hospital from the event. And what's interesting is there was one spectator was killed as an 8-year-old boy, and 2 dirt bike riders as well also died during or from the event. The way it is kind of talked about, and again, I was not there, so I've kind of got to rely on a lot of this information that I'm finding on different websites, is one of them was actually found dead at his motorcycle, and that was Noah Everman. He's a 34-year-old sportsman moto rider from Alaska, and he was found at mile marker 180, and unfortunately he was found by another race team. And then Pro Moto Unlimited rider Travis Livingston. It was also was one of the ones that passed away. He was 34. He's a California native, and he crashed at 288.9. And it says he died on the scene. There's a little. It's like going back and forth between a couple different blog posts. It seems like he might have been the one that actually didn't die right away, where he may have been one of the ones, and it's so tough to tell what's going on. There's no what's the word? There's no real morgue reports on this kind of stuff, so it's tough to know for sure. But yeah, so here it was. Pro Moto Unlimited rider Travis Livingston, 34, of Palmdale, California, crashed at race mile 288.9. When SCORE medical personnel arrived, while attempting to stabilize him, Livingston went into cardiac arrest and could not be revived. So that kind of stuff is tough. And then even in their official press release, they do talk about Noah Everman, 34, from Alaska, was the one that was found dead near his motorcycle. That kind of stuff is just tough. I kind of asked different people about this. One of those specifically is Eric Kudla. And I think a lot of you guys who watch C-Time, listen to C-Time, know who he is just because he's been on the show a few different times. But at the same time, a huge force on the West Coast when it comes to any kind of desert racing. He's been at the Baja Rally. He's been at all the Baja races. That guy is just in the desert. He eats, breathes that. And he's also a badass into the punk scene, which rock on. But one of the interesting things that him and I discussed back and forth is how I said, well, do you think that SCORE hasn't done enough in the aspect of safety? And he goes, one of the things that came up is that in our discussions is that both of us kind of agreed that it seemed like SCORE this year was the year that they were probably the most ready in what it's been on trying to be ready for safety and making sure that riders, racers, and spectators were of huge concern, more so than maybe in the past. But the problem is the wreck that happened in the wash coming out of Ensenada, where the 8-year-old boy was wound up killed and other spectators were hurt and had to go to the hospital, is because of that. And the holdup of the hour and 10 minutes there took so much personnel that potentially that could have been why all of the other severely injured riders that did need medical attention immediately potentially did not get that, is because all of the personnel was already taken up literally, half a mile into the event there at the wash in Ensenada. It's tough to know. I mean, we're getting a press release and we're talking to people that were on the scene, but after that, it's all speculation and hearsay. So that's one of the things that I don't want to get too much into that. I want to talk about some of the facts that I do know. And unfortunately, that's it, because after that, it's all speculation. I mean, it seems like the race was really damn hot. Score did a better job trying to keep people safe. Shit happened. And not to make light of the situation, just shit happened that took a lot of the personnel that they were having to try to help other riders that were in the event, and then it wound up taking them away from other people that did need them later on during the event. I'm not a Baja racer. I'm not a desert racer. We've talked about that. It seems crazy. There's got to be, I feel there's got to be a better solution. I don't know what that is. I don't know how to make it. If you go look at the video and look at the pictures of the crash that happened in Ensenada in the wash, I think it's, again, this is completely opinion, I think it's absolute bullshit. Because these guys are they're hauling ass through the city and going into the wash and taking a huge right-hand turn, and there's nothing there. I mean, it's if you go back to the 70s and watch the motocross pictures and videos where people are literally standing on the side of the track, that's what it was. That's what it is. And at some point, somebody in Mexico is going to have enough of us not giving enough of a shit to setting up a proper course. And if proper course means that you have to spend more money to do it, that's it. We're human beings. Just because we're in Mexico and they don't have the laws doesn't mean that we shouldn't treat people the same. And it's kind of shitty. Whether that is what kept personnel getting to the riders or other injured anybody, riders, truck drivers, buggy drivers, all the other people competing in the event, I don't know. That's not a number that you can facilitate and actually look at. But one of the things we know that we can is the setup when it comes to spectators and all that kinds of stuff. And if you can't, I don't know about the Mexican police. If you can't get them to give a shit, then you need to give a shit. And I feel like that is a step that just needs to be taken. It's tough to say that kind of stuff, and I didn't really want to say it without having given it more thought and given it a little bit more research. But I guess there it is. And yeah, you guys are more than welcome to agree, disagree, give a shit, because there's a comment box for a reason. So if you have an opinion on this kind of stuff and you feel like you either have it more understood than I do, I'm missing something, you want to agree, disagree, or whatever, that's why it's there. We don't need you to be a troll. We don't want you to be a jerk. But at the same time, please voice your opinion. Continue to keep the discussion going, because that's the only way any of us can ever learn from this. We don't learn from trolls. We don't learn from the internet keyboard, ninjas out there that are just going to type buttons and try to be a jackass and feel better about themselves. But at the same time, if you want to have something a little bit authoritative to say and think about it, that's fine too. But yeah, so that's been episode 211. You have a comment? Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, Big Daddy's done pee-peeing, and he wants to bring in a comment. So
get this leg to work.
We'll see. I got people commenting on all kinds of stuff. Stuff that's going on the internets. Some of it's seat time related, some of it's not. But yeah, so what's your comment?
Once again, a history lesson.
Oh, history lesson.
If you think back to auto racing, the IndyCar was unsafe. Formula One was unsafe. NASCAR, people were getting killed by the dozens. All of a sudden, you got sponsors. Same thing with motocross. When you got sponsorships, people like Monster Energy or the large corporations, they don't want their name tied with somebody who gets hurt or killed. So when the sponsors started to put pressure on the organizations, it's amazing, but the cars got safer.
You saw less deaths.
Motocross got safer. So until the sponsors, but again, we're just complaining that we don't have enough non-motorcycle industry sponsors. But the other side of that is when we do get those sponsors, they're not going to want to be associated with Ron Dungey having a broken back, or both Stewart and Baggett going out.
Right.
100% of their team going out with injuries. I mean, Suzuki isn't big enough to really shake the tree, but maybe Rockstar is, or whoever their sponsor. No, who's their sponsor?
For KTM?
For the Suzukis.
Which
energy
they don't have
drink?
they don't have an James Stewart is a Red Bull athlete.
That's right. Okay.
But the Suzuki Yoshimura team does not have essentially a backing energy drink.
But until the motorcycle world catches up and the sponsors start to realize they don't want their name associated with death and injury. Now, whether that'll ever happen down in Mexico is unknown. It may happen in Supercross. I mean, just in the last 2 years, the injury toll on Supercross has been devastating, and motocross.
And that's an awesome, weird, interesting point. I didn't think we'd ever wind up in this conversation. So, it's been talked about a lot on the PulpMX show. It's been talked some on DMXS, and it's been a thought in my mind a lot. You and I have talked about the bores of the motorcycle and the amount of power that they have. And the AMA and the FIM came in too late. Yamaha came out with the 400. Holy crap, they made a competitive four-stroke, right? Mm-hmm. Like, damn, they made a 400cc motorcycle because they realized that was the CCs to compete, if not maybe have the advantage over the 250 two-stroke.
You couldn't have more than a 400. I believe that was the regulation.
But the thing is, I think the regulation was expanded after that because no one thought that the four-stroke, being that higher CC, would then become the dominant brand, right? So, okay, all that's happened, right? We're where we are right now. Can't we still backtrack? Sure. Can't we just say, sorry, guys, these motorcycles are too powerful, they're too strong. We've got 16-year-olds casing it and killing themselves to try to become a professional on a 250cc.
You don't remember 500cc two-strokes.
I've ridden a 400.
They just kept getting bigger and bigger and my favorite was my RM37.
Yeah.
Became a 400, a whatchamadoodle, then an RM 500. They were unrideable. Honda had one. Yamaha, of course, Yamaha's was always air-cooled, and it never did keep up. Kawasaki, I think, was the last one that finally threw in the towel on the 500. They were unrideable. You had to put a 10-pound flywheel weight on the crank just to get the thing to not dig holes in the ground.
Mm-hmm. And then you turn it into a hill climbing machine.
Right.
So is it, even the manufacturers, what feels like happened is the manufacturers dictated what bikes people were going to ride up until the AMA or the FIM finally were like, okay, God, we have to stop this growth in CCage. These are going to be the new standards, right? Well, I think we've seen enough of kind of where that's gotten us. Would it be so wrong for them to be like, guys, you've got 2 years, because in 2 years the 450 will not be the competitive bike anymore of the pro class. It will now be X.
And what also will bring, I think, more competitive racing is to provide a choice. If you build the situation where you have a choice. Now remember, a lot of the 4-stroke over 2-stroke stuff's governmental, because of emissions control, yep. Blah, blah, blah. The off-road bikes kind of almost have to move toward 4-strokes. But if you truly build equality, then you have a choice. Do you want to ride a 400 4-stroke or a 250 2-stroke? Or do you want to ride a 450 4-stroke or a 300 2-stroke? Build in parity. I don't know what they're going to do with the young kids. The tracks are just unsafe. What we see on TV is the survivors.
Right.
They've survived the day of carnage to qualify for a Supercross. How many kids you don't see on the TV, case it on a triple or endo over the whoops and get carted off the track. I've never seen so many people carted off the track as last year in Dallas.
A lot of that is lack of talent, but a bike that is strong enough to make up for lack of talent. So, and I've heard this is a discussion I have heard on PulpMX over and over and over again, is if you were to come out of a turn on a 252 stroke, or even sometimes a triple, if you could have made it on a 125, right? If you're just totally ringing that thing out, you come around a turn just right, you can clear the triple, right? The second you come into that turn wrong and don't carry your speed on a two-stroke, that bike dies, right? If you don't keep it in the power band, and so you have to double. There is no, I can try to triple it, right? But now, because of where we've gotten with the torque
Of
and
the
the amount of
250s.
horsepower of the 250s and the 450s, is that really you can screw up almost until 10 feet before the face of the jump and just, and then seat bounce and just kind of go. And obviously, I am quoting the discussion. This is not firsthand knowledge because that's not going to be me.
That's exactly why I started riding 4-strokes when I got the 99 Yamaha, because of that exact situation. I didn't have to be as good a rider to go faster. The bike, I could be in the wrong gear as long as it didn't stop running like Yamahas used to do. It would make up for me coming out of a corner being in the wrong gear. I'd roll on the throttle and be a happy camper. On my 300, not so much.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's exactly why I started riding 4-strokes, is because the power band helped overcome some of my deficiencies. Yes, I have lots of deficiencies. That was one of them.
Don't we all?
But in the case of professionals, the delta is so great that these kids, they're out of control on the 250s.
Oh, I still think about Zach Bell when he was at Dallas 2 years ago, maybe 3. I don't even know now.
See him anymore.
2-3 years ago. No, no.
And Cincerillo, I mean, he's lucky to finish anything. He's crashing all the time and
Yeah.
hurting himself.
It's tough. Again, man, these are all opinions. We have thought processes. We just kind of, and that's why I didn't want to speak too much on Baja too soon. It's a touchy-ass subject. Some of this stuff is a little bit more, we can go off the cuff a little bit of it, but I'm not here to piss anybody off. But at the same time, we're passionate about this kind of stuff, and that's why we've been doing this for 5 years and why we've been kind of keeping it up. So if you're that same person, if you have opinions, if you have passions, let us know. Get in the comments. Seriously, do that.
And learn history, because if you don't know history, you are destined to repeat the same mistakes. And motorcycling right now is going through exactly what Formula One went through and IndyCar racing in the 70s and 80s.
Yep.
They were killing people every week.
And that's the thing, is we may not be killing, but the same, we have just seen injury after injury after injury after injury. That's true.
The guy behind me is no longer with us.
Yeah. And we, and the story there is that he was racing in Baja and hit an animal.
And how long did it take him to get help?
Too many hours.
Too long.
Too long, for sure.
Same thing you were saying earlier, that maybe the resources were sucked up in the very first incident, going, oh my gosh, we all have to respond, not realizing that maybe we need a team further out and a team further out, because if everybody's here, nobody's there.
Oh yeah, no, I mean that's
that makes good sense.
Again, from everything that's kind of what it in this scenario.
The things we've been to, there's seldom more than one helicopter.
Yeah, and it's not for medical; it's for the video.
Right. It can be for medical, and it will be for medical if necessary.
Right.
But there's seldom more than one helicopter.
Yep. Interesting. All right, we've talked too much past our allotted babysitting time.
Sorry, I had to take a break.
It's okay. Everybody's got a tinkle.
The curse of the Pierce bladder.
Hey, man, it's like an almond. Sometimes half an almond. It's pretty pathetic. But this has been Seat Time. Seriously, we are the online show for the off-road enthusiasts. We're beer-drinking, bench racing enthusiasts.
But that was my first beer.
Good-hearted people that have been riding dirt bikes pretty much their whole life. 5, 14, much older than me, so a lot longer than me. But just having a good time doing it. So hopefully you've enjoyed some of the stuff that we've chatted about, and you have opinions as well that you'd like to share with us. So do that. Thank you again to Fly Racing, Kenda Tire, and of course SRT Off-Road for their support of Seat Time. What's great is you can go to any of their websites, or you can purchase them from your local dealer. We're obviously local dealer supporters. There's a time and a place for purchasing online, but a lot of stuff can be done and said for supporting the sport by going to your local dealer. So definitely think of that as a way to make sure you make that happen. My wife is her birthday party weekend is going to be happening this weekend. We're going to be up in Broken Bow. So definitely, if you don't potentially follow me on Instagram at Woody B. Pierced, I think that this might be a good time to go ahead and do that, because there could be some weird shit popping up on the drinking, fire pitting and this weekend. I think it'd be a good time.
If that's the best thing you have to do is follow him.
It's the internet. Weird shit happens, man. I don't even know anymore.
Of course, worse would be following me.
That's true. He doesn't even have Instagram, so if you did that, you've screwed something up.
Have Facebook.
Hey, Papa Pierce has got Facebook, y'all. Watch out. The world's being figured out by the older people.
Hey, and if they don't go to Sea Time Adventure, Fly has their announcements for Washougal.
Yep. So that weekend, the back half of Sea Time Adventures is going to be Fly's 2017 launch in Washougal. It's going to be a good time for everybody that week. So yeah, pay attention for the website. After this week, we're going to have information that we're going to have already set out to our riders for 2016 Sea Time Adventures. We're going to have a lot of fun doing that. We will be live again next Tuesday, having a lot of fun. Thank you for paying attention, Brian Pierce, Papa Pierce. Remember to always enjoy a pint full of awesome, and we'll see you next week. Peace.